You're talking about the high error rate in Pillar 2. There was a report from the Budget Control Committee from 2014 which focused on Pillar 2. And what they identified as one of the problems was gold plating at a national level. One of the other problems with it is that Pillar 2 has always been more complex. But can someone square this one? We are simplifying Pillar 1 as a priority, even though it's quite obvious there's a bigger problem in Pillar 2. In relation to procedure and how this place works, I was at an AGRI meeting the week before the last time the AGRI committee was on. The Budget Control Committee was also on at the same time. Regularly happens. I'm also on the Budget Control Committee, and I was chomping at the bit to get out to hear what DG AGRI would be saying at the Budget Control Committee. Unfortunately, I didn't get there on time because I needed to be here. But interestingly enough, when we arrived in, the rapporteur for this whole discharge file, Joachim Zeller, was saying that it was a shame that people couldn't be here. Well, we cannot be in two places at once. And given that at that meeting they were beating us up because they reckon we don't spend our money well and that this is the biggest budget, I think we need to arrange things a little bit better so people can actually get to those meetings. One very interesting thing, which confounds what I thought about this place before I came, was that Mr Zeller has said that one of his biggest concerns is, and he is in the PPE, and this is what confused me a little bit, was that the money is going to big farmers, namely the Queen of England or the King of the beef industry in Ireland. The money seems to go to them. But what I thought was refreshing was, Fine Gael, who come from my country, are also in this group. I actually thought it was standard opinion in the EPP that the money go to the rich farmers. Well, actually, it doesn't seem to be the case. I'm just wondering, will Mr Zeller be listened to? Because it is very difficult to sell how you're giving 40% of the budget to one particular group of people, and then it ends up in the pockets of multi-millionaires. How can you justify that? I can't justify it. Thank you.
Monsieur Agnew, vous voulez...
Mr Agnew.
Chairman, on what Luke Flanagan just said, I know our Queen isn't the Queen of Ireland, but she's more than the Queen of England. She's the Queen of the United Kingdom, and I'm sure she will thank me for reminding you of that.
Monsieur Flanagan a demandé.
Thank you. Mr Flanagan has asked for the floor.
One of the problems I see at a farmer level with these error rates is, I suppose, the length of chain of command, the whole way from Brussels to Dublin and then down to the farmer. And we have a situation where a farmer would argue that their land is eligible, namely when it comes to cattle feeding on heather. And I sat in the Commission with a group of hill farmers where they argued that for decades and for centuries that their animals have been eating this heather and surviving on it when it grows above a certain height. And we had someone in the Commission saying, no, this is not possible. This cannot be done. So when it comes to deciding whether something is eligible or not, it seems pretty impossible when farmers have been told that something they've done for centuries actually doesn't happen. And on that basis they're told their land isn't eligible. And on that basis they're told, well, you inappropriately applied and this is an error. So one of these errors is, it's an error that farmers actually successfully feed their animals on land. But the EU says, no, this does not happen. You are seeing things. Solution, shorter chain of command. Come up with our own agricultural policy in Ireland and leave this place. Thank you. I think it's sad to say that normally when we talk about precarious employment and talk about working conditions, usually you're talking about the minority. But in the case of agriculture, with all the crises we have in agriculture, we're actually talking about the vast majority. Because if you define precarious employment and working conditions as getting less for your product than it costs you to produce it, well then that pretty much pulls in nearly everyone. And obviously you have people in even more precarious situation if you don't own land and you're coming as a seasonal worker. Obviously you need to be protected. But I think the number one way you protect people is, and it goes back to my earlier point about the Queen of the United Kingdom, or what did I call her, the Queen of England. So long as, just go to a birthday party, if one kid eats all the cake, there's going to be no cake for anyone else, whatever about what it's going to do for them, but they get all the cake. That is why it's so precarious, because I don't know how it happened in your country, but we had a situation where when CAP was being renegotiated, I was new into this game and I thought to myself, how would a farming organisation be able to successfully convince its members that the majority of them would be better off having less money? Well, they succeeded in doing it. They even got them to march to our capital to protest that there was going to be a fairer, more even distribution of CAP. So I think the number one thing we need to do is make sure that CAP is done right. And in my country, it isn't done right. In other countries, it is. Very hard to know how to solve that one, because we have powerful forces fighting against people who don't have the resources. Thank you.